What is up, Rogue Nation? Noah here, back again for my Ahsoka Episode 6 review and breakdown. And overall, this was a solid episode. Obviously not on last week's scale, but like it's not even comparable. And last week just hit so close to home for me because I love the prequels and I love the Clone Wars above all else. This week, I think, was very much a world-building episode, introducing Thrawn, introducing Ezra, obviously, into live action, into this show, the Nightsisters, all that stuff, and really just setting us up for episodes 7 and 8 in the coming weeks. I'm not big on star ratings, but if I had to give it a rating, I'd probably go like probably 7.5 out of 10. Here's the thing, some of the big moments in this episode, right, seeing Ezra for the first time, Thrawn showing up, the undead stormtroopers, that rumor actually came to life, which was super cool. All the like, and outside of that, just really focusing on Thrawn's arrival and Ezra's return, like those were big moments, obviously. But here's the thing, I know those are going to be like super big, like big pop moments for like some people, and like, you know, very emotional moments maybe between Ezra and Sabine. For me, it doesn't hit as close to home for me, because like even though I love Rebels, it doesn't even compare for me to Clone Wars. Like I hold Clone Wars and the prequels so close to heart, so like the last 2 weeks have just been like mind-blowing Star Wars. This week, and seeing Thrawn and Ezra is like, we know we were gonna see it, and even though we finally saw it, it wasn't like a super either A, mind-blowing, or B, emotional thing. It was just like, oh cool, all right, so here we go. Now Ezra's back. All right, here's Thrawn. All right. And that was kind of me. Like, it was a good episode, again, very world building, and I think just more setting stuff up for the following weeks. And I gotta say, even though Thrawn's arrival was awesome, even though seeing Ezra was cool, I think my favorite thing of this episode is the continued just question marks that surround Baylan's skull. There was multiple times in this episode where I'm just like, I said it in the reactions, I'm like, I just don't know what this guy's motive is. And then we get to a point in the episode, we're gonna jump around a little bit as we always do, and we get to a point in this episode where Baylan and Shin are having some dialogue. Baylan tells Shin that he trained her to be something more than a Jedi. I believe that came after Shin asked Baylan if he misses the Jedi Order, which Baylan also said that he misses the idea of the Jedi Order, and then like not a lot of the stuff that came with it. But one of the most interesting things that happened all episode to me was Baylan saying that, because Shin mentioned that the Great Mothers felt like they're almost in a hurry to get off this planet, and Baylan said maybe the Great Mothers are fleeing a power greater than their own, and then says something's calling to him. And I'm like, what is Baylan alluding to here? Because if they're not laying that groundwork for no reason, right? So my mind's immediately going to all the theories. Is Baylan feeling a call from a sequel tie-in, like a Snoke or an Emperor Palpatine or something like that? Or I saw this on Twitter, somebody threw out this wild idea, which I don't really know, like, this is something that hasn't even been talked about, I don't think, but like, is Baylan feeling the early presence of the big time villain for episodes 10 through 12 if they ever get made? Like, I don't know, that's just a big question mark surrounding that. Like, it's very interesting. Like I said, Shin purposely bringing up the fact, like, the Great Mother's oh so powerful, but in such a hurry to get off this planet, and then Baylan mentioning that they might be fleeing a power that's greater than theirs. Maybe they're trying to escape, maybe they feel it too, and they're trying to get out of here. Like, I don't know, man, there's just some interesting groundwork being laid with Baylan and Shin, and just those two characters, man. And I said this multiple times in my reaction video, but like throughout every movie, throughout every series, or whether it's been live action or animation, we always see new characters getting introduced, right? And especially in the Disney era. But I gotta say, man, I don't think there's been any, just like right off the bat almost, new characters, maybe outside of Din and Grogu, but like outside of those guys, new characters that have been introduced that I am so intrigued to learn more about and that I want so much more from. And it's such a disappointment that Baylan, I believe is Ray Stevenson, I believe was the actor's name, unfortunately passed away, because I don't know how that's going to affect what might have been in the works for Baylan and Shin, or if Baylan was going to die during this series anyway. I'm not exactly sure, but like, they are just knocking it out of the park, man. And like, Shin's only had so much like dialogue for the most part throughout these episodes, but everything about Baylan is just super interesting, and I really want more, and I hope we get more answers. There's only 2 episodes left, so I feel like we might be left with more questions than answers, especially considering the fact that I feel like this series is going to end on some kind of cliffhanger to kind of lead into Mando season 4, but more importantly lead into the Filoniverse movie, whenever that's going to be. So I don't know, man, but Baylan and Shin, absolutely love those characters, and if for some reason like we don't get a lot of answers about them in this series, in future series or movies, like, they're a duo that I would love to see like an animation show made on or something like that, like a limited Tales of the Jedi like series where it's only like 6 episodes, but it's focused on Baylan and Shin and their backstory. I think that'd be super cool. But of course, the main part of this episode was Morgan, Baylan, Shin, and everybody arriving on Peredia, I believe was the name of the homeworld of Morgan's ancestors, as she called it, but the name of the planet that they arrived to. And it looked very almost ancient Egyptian-esque. They had these giant like human statues around the planet. From what we saw, there's not much life or civilization around, because for all we know, it's just like the Great Mothers, Thrawn, Ezra, and then just like creatures scattered throughout this galaxy or throughout this planet, and like some nomads that tried to attack Sabine, and she absolutely lit them all up. But there's obviously not much here. And another thing about Baylan too is we get some more dialogue between him and Shin, where he literally calls the planet a land of dreams and madness. And then he starts speaking about how he watched the Jedi Temple burn, and he says it's all inevitable, the fall of the Jedi, the rise of the Empire, and then the cycle just repeats itself again and again and again. And that's what he is after, to put an end to that cycle. And he keeps alluding to some new beginning, which what that means, I don't know. Maybe it's going to have some sequel tie-in. Maybe it's going to be some First Order seeds being planted. I don't know. Which wouldn't necessarily end the cycle, but in his, villainous mind might think it will. So again, remains to be seen. Eventually, Grand Admiral Thrawn arrives. But before we see Thrawn, we see an army. Well, we see some TIE fighters as well, which were sick. But we also see an army of undead stormtroopers that we presume were brought back to life through some Nightsister dark magic. Now, this was one of the OG rumors for the Ahsoka show, I think like end of last year, maybe early this year, that we were going to see all these undead stormtroopers that were going to have like gold cracks in their masks, similar to Kylo Ren in Rise of Skywalker. And we saw multitudes of stormtroopers, ones like the ones I just described, ones that had like almost red bandages around their armor and whatnot. There was one who had like a complete gold face that Thrawn referred to as like his, I don't know, right hand man or whatever you want to say. I think Enoch was his name. Very, very cool. The army looked awesome. I really like that concept. It feels like Star Wars, but it's also something new in a sense. And Lars Mikkelsen, I believe, my goodness, did he knock it out of the park this episode, man. The delivery was so Grand Admiral Thrawn-esque. He did a phenomenal job. And outside of the stuff with Baylan, like just Thrawn and hearing his dialogue was probably my favorite part of this episode. Just again, the delivery, just the presence, so good. Thrawn says that the Enoch captain will begin the cargo transfers as per Thrawn's agreement with the Great Mothers. Morgan says she has seen the catacombs and it will take 3 rotations to transfer. And here's where some more questions come up. Catacombs sounds very ancient Egyptian-esque. Sounds like there might be something dead in these catacombs. And then later in the episode, we see them loading up whatever these things were to Thrawn's ship. And it just makes you wonder what is inside those things. Like, it's per the agreement with the Great Mothers is what Thrawn is saying. So like, is it dead Nightsisters that they don't want to bring back to life yet because they want to wait till they get to the other galaxy, like back to the real galaxy? I don't know what's going to be in those things, but obviously it's probably something big if it was per the agreement with the Great Mothers that they want to, transfer this stuff out of exile. So another question that's coming from this episode. That's really the big thing about this episode. A lot of questions that I hope we're going to get answers to, but there's only 2 episodes left. Obviously, we got the movie coming up inevitably, so like, it's not that everything needs to be answered in the next 2 episodes, but I don't know. And one thing about our live action Thrawn is he certainly is playing the Thrawn mind games several steps ahead. They let Sabine go free per her agreement with Baylan to get to the new galaxy and then go find Ezra. Thrawn's like, oh, well, thanks for your efforts. You just doomed the whole galaxy because of what you want. Obviously, he said it differently, but I was just like, that's hilarious. And then they let her go free. They give her a creature, which I believe Ezra said was a howler. Later in the episode, they give her 2 blasters. They give her a lightsaber back, and then they let her go into the planet. And I'm thinking they're like, interesting strategy there, but this is Thrawn, so let's give it the benefit of doubt. And then just a few minutes later, Thrawn sending Baylan and Shin behind her at their own pace and basically saying once she finds Ezra, if she does, take care of them both. So Thrawn thinking 10 steps ahead. Really like that, because that is what Thrawn does. He doesn't have the Force, he doesn't have a lightsaber, he's got a mind that almost nobody can match. And then during Sabine's travels, as I mentioned, she's riding this howler. She comes across these freaking Ninja Turtles. Obviously not, but like that she comes across these turtle creatures which basically bring her to Ezra Bridger, and then we get that reunited moment between Sabine and Ezra. And then one thing Ezra says is that he cannot wait to go home, and Sabine's just like, yeah. See, here's the thing, like, she didn't say anything, but it was just like Ezra thinks that it's all fine and dandy, and he's gonna find out real quick that it's not. The Great Mothers inform Thrawn that Ahsoka is coming through the travels of the space whales, and then Thrawn, after a little bit of dialogue, basically tells Morgan he wants to know everything there is to know, because this is what Thrawn does. He will look miles ahead, get your entire background on you, find your strengths, find your weaknesses, and pick you apart internally like that. Thrawn wants to know the background, the history, the homeworld, the master, etc. of Ahsoka Tano. So somehow, through this knowledge, I mean, listen, whether it's through this or not, I do think we're going to get Anakin Skywalker again in the next 2 episodes, but wants to know all those specifics, and then I want to know her master. And I'm really interested to see what Thrawn's reaction is going to be when he finds out Ahsoka's master was Anakin Skywalker. How is he going to react? I'm very interested to see how that's going to be. And then we end this episode with Thrawn requesting the use of some dark magic from the Great Mother. So I'm not sure what that's about, but there's, again, a lot of questions coming out of this episode. Biggest things about this episode, more questions than answers, world building, and overall I'm just very excited for the groundwork that has been laid for episodes 7 and 8, and then the inevitable Filoniverse movie, which I believe was like 2025, 2026, but then there's the writer's strikes going on, so like I don't know when that thing's gonna come out. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But yeah, overall, man, solid episode. Again, obviously it wasn't on the par of episode 5 or episode 4. Like, it was just a world building, you know, laying the groundwork episode, and it gave us some cool moments like Thrawn and Ezra, and some again, just more questions and answers that really intrigued me the most about episode 6. Also, I apologize if there's some weird cuts and I sound super congested in this video. The Rogue Nation got hit with allergies this week. A little bit under the weather. I apologize. Leave your thoughts on episode 6 down below in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. When we hit that, we'll be doing a massive Black Series giveaway here on the channel, probably Black Series and more. And you guys can go check out the Noah Nation merchandise that has a bunch of Rogue Nation merchandise. The website link down below in the description. Hats, snapbacks, truckers, coffee mugs, all that good stuff. And go check out my reactions to episode 6 if you did not already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. This is where the fun begins.
This is Rogue 2. This is Rogue 2. Commander Skywalker, do you copy? This is Rogue 2.